Okay, I have started recording.
And I am obviously getting a cup of tea, so you can wait.
I'm leaving this in so everybody knows how poorly I am treated by my only sibling.
Go ahead. My contract says I'm allowed a tea break.
What contract?
Exactly.
Did you see the latest one I forwarded you, the comment section with the Adelaide Uni tutor?
No, which one? Was it of any interest? Do we need to include it?
Well, not for research, but it was just funny because this tutor, throws a fit in the comments.
Of his own article. I can almost guarantee the majority of the ones trolling him are current or former students.
Oh, they have to be. Nobody else would know how specifically he hates internet conspiracies. You'll love this bit.
Okay.
He's all like, maybe you need to actually go to university to appreciate that internet nonsense like Slender Man, Back of Bourke, the elevator game are only for people who are not intelligent enough to analyse media, instead of spending all their time down rabbit holes looking for a non-existent purpose. Leave that sort of stuff to Lee and do something useful with your time. Maybe you could try television instead. There's no shame in starting simple. This is the best bit.
Okay.
As McLuhan said, television provides the opportunity for an ongoing story, the opportunity to meld the cast and the characters in a world and try to spend more time there.
But wasn't
And
that...
then the next commenter, that's a quote from David Lynch, you idiot.
Welcome to Back of Bourke.
Hello, and thank you for listening, if there is anybody listening.
If not, we were likely going to have this conversation anyway.
My name is Michael, and this is my sister Alice.
Hello.
And we decided to record this podcast to see if we could gather any further information about a 1960s television show named Back of Bourke. There are many internet theories and posts regarding this show, but no reliable sources that confirm its premise, air date, or production.
It is a rumour that our great aunt Dot, who we never met, was an actor in the very first episode of this program. It is family lore that she was so dottery that even she could not tell you what the show was about. Like most of the people that post about the show, we both remember watching it, but cannot remember the plot.
From our youth, we have one remaining videotape on which is recorded the theme to the television show Back of Bourke, and it sounds like this.
White letters join from the edges of the screen to form the title Back of Bourke, over the top of unsettling grey-scale movements, distorted, wriggling figures under a microscope, to the score of vibrating synth.
Childhood VHS only has this title sequence from Back of Bourke, and then it cuts to different commercials, episodes, and other themes from shows on all different networks.
It really seems that our recording of Back of Bourke is unique, and perhaps one of the only copies of the television show that remains.
And in a hope to get flagged for copyright, we've posted the intro sequence to our website. So come at us, APRA OMCOS, and let us know who wrote this.
I think you should explain the basics, like what we currently know for the people who have never heard of Back of Bourke.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's our producer, Michelle. Thank you for a very good note. So, what actually is Back of Bourke? It's the name of an Australian television show, and it's said to be like a total rip-off of The Twilight Zone from the late 50s.
And as far as we are concerned, we are estimating the air date of Back of Bourke at around 1962 to 1965. We have not found any confirmation of exact filming or broadcast dates.
We estimate this from reading thousands of recollections of the show, the age of our great aunt Dot, and as well as the look of the title sequence.
After trying YouTube, and every other means of viewing old TV shows, with absolutely no way to watch even fragments of an episode beyond the opening credits, we turned to the bank of collective nostalgia that is Reddit.
Oh yes, there are many Redditors who remember Back of Bourke, but that's all it is, memories, with absolutely no primary or physical corroboration.
The nature of television from the 1960s, and even up until we were kids, is entirely ephemeral. If the footage does not exist anymore, how can you prove what you saw?
Which is really why we wanted to do this research and podcast, because it is so strange that lots of people remember the show, but there is very little evidence it ever really existed.
So strange. And that is essentially all of the facts, or half the facts, we know about Back of Bourke. We can tell you what we don't know.
Which is a lot.
But that is why it is fascinating. Nobody knows a lot.
Right. Yeah, the absence of footage is not entirely unique, but still highly irregular for a show of this time.
Go ahead.
With pleasure. Well, there's no record of the show in the National Film and Sound Archive of Australia. There's a few explanations for this. The footage could be missing or have been destroyed. Film was expensive and cumbersome to film with, and with the rise of video in the 1960s, which was lower quality but could be recorded over and reused, they did just that. BBC famously did this with early Doctor Who episodes, which have since been cobbled back together with found footage.
After Michael explained the process of video reuse to me, I did not do some digging through some definitely not internal memos from a well-known Australian television network that does not rhyme with Flannel Kevin. In the mid-1970s, this station's main filming studio decided to save some money by reusing old wiped tapes. They purchased these tapes from a wholesaler. Half of the 63 tapes purchased had words Back of Bourke printed on the front of the tape. When the network actually tried to use all of these wiped tapes, quote from a memo, all kinds of problems are occurring and mucking up the footage from the new shows. Get your bloody money back. We need to reshoot at least half of them. The tapes are not viable and corrupted in some way, end quote.
So weird. Yeah, so no footage means there are contentious debates and guesses on absolutely everything Back of Bourke related.
However, general consensus from online forums is the premise of the show is a weekly horror sci-fi monster of the week story introduced by a male presenter. All of the stories taking place are in the town of Bourke.
It's broadly speculated that the end of each episode, for his outro, the presenter is unable to leave the town. But what makes it really odd is that people seem to remember the intro and outro of the trapped man, but only tiny fragments of possible narratives of the full stories.
Also important to note that all and any writers and directors are unknown.
And so is the channel on which it was broadcast in the 60s.
We are diligently trying to solve this mystery, but still have not yielded any results. From the 90s, we are relying on our own hazier by the day childhood memories. I swear I remember it being shown on Nick at Night.
But there's no way we could afford Foxtel. And yeah, Foxtel, for those of you who are not Australian, is like cable TV.
So it must have been at Auntie Margaret and Uncle Mark's house then. All we ever watched there was Nickelodeon, as it was such a novelty.
It's interesting to say that because I remember it had, I remember with, like what you said, it had no ad breaks, and that's the same as you.
Yeah, that's true.
So I thought maybe it was on SBS or ABC, but the majority of people on the fan site say either 10, 9 or 7 Kevin.
Which brings us nicely to the websites. There is still an active GeoCities style web ring dedicated to Back of Bourke. It includes interesting fan pages about the mystery of Back of Bourke, places fans can share their memories, a section about Bourke the town, which we will discuss shortly, and a conspiracy page from an unknown maker.
Yeah, the websites occasionally have glitched out visuals and text, but only for some visitors because at other times they're presented perfectly. We've posted the link in the show notes.
For this first episode, we have reached out to people who have contributed to Back of Bourke lore. This voice note is from Clara, a new and digital friend who has allowed us to use her real name.
I had been fascinated with Back of Bourke since I was little. According to my mum, I begged to watch the show all the time. The 80s were more lenient. She would have happily plonked me in front of the TV at a scheduled time each week, but she never could find an exact time it was on. I think it's why I can't remember ever watching a full episode of the show. I'm not a horror fan now. I feel like I've become much more fearful with age. But then I loved it, and nothing was as scary or exciting as Back of Bourke. Weird remembering a feeling of a show rather than the actual show itself. I'd been online, back then there were only a few places to chat about this stuff. I'm a computer programmer, so it was a little easier for me to have a good amount of access. I was a solid contributor to the BOB threads and loved every second of it. At some point, I decided to finally tackle a project I'd been wanting to try for a while, house all the Back of Bourke related web pages on a central site. I just wanted a place where fans and newbies could source all the BOB information, rather than scrolling through posts to get to one of the links. It would be so simple these days, but back then I had to teach myself all types of new things. It was a really fun hobby in my 20s, but, life got really involved and I couldn't donate as much time to it. I still checked it from time to time, but geo-cities, they're not really in the zeitgeist quite as much anymore, are they? I asked my teenager the other day if he knew what geo-cities was when I was dropping him off at school. And I got a no, which was more than I expected, to be honest. So eventually someone contacted me about archiving it all to neo-cities, which is something trying to capture the old feeling of the geo-cities pages. It's kind of weird to feel so nostalgic about something that seemed so modern at the time, but I guess that's aging.
One of the pages linked and housed on Clara's site is claimed to be the production history database from Back of Bourke.
We really encourage you to go and have a look through the information. This is another voice note we requested, one of a prolific poster on the most popular Back of Bourke threads. He would prefer not to be named.
I don't know if I was the first to find it. I could not have been the actual first person to find it. That's stupid. It was on the dark web. That's not as creepy as it sounds. It's where a lot of lost pages go to die, mainly because they can sometimes be reused. I was looking for anything to do with Back of Bourke because I wanted to know more about the game, what the threads call, the ritual. I love all that internet legend, creepypasta stuff. And I come across the production site. It still does not have much of any information on it besides the codes. What kind of freaked me out a little was that when I first came across the page, it was dated from 1963, which is impossible because that is well before the internet was even a thing. The other weird thing was that the date was on the data, like the data. It's not, it is not something that anybody would actually bother to change usually. I posted it on the fan archive of the web ring, and Clara asked if she could host it on her site she was making, and I said yeah, because I didn't make it, so what do I care? I warned her that the page changes, but not so often than one of us would notice. Right, yeah, I remember watching the show on DVD with my dad. He remembers it too, but I cannot find the actual DVD. And he has looked, I made sure. It would be so cool if I was the one to find the footage, I think there was an episode with a statue, and I'm positive there was an episode with a deli that had strange things on the shelves. I remember that one specifically because all the other episodes were black and white, and the deli one, that one was in colour.
One of the items that has appeared most regularly on the production page is a code, yet to be deciphered by any Back of Bourke follower or fan.
It's a series of capital letters, each grouped together in a word, 8 to 11 letters in length. For example, the first reads WTBW/DDZL, the second MAMSW/DDZL. There are 8 groups in total, and we find it is the most intriguing element of the production site.
We did promise we would return to the actual town of Bourke. It is impossible to completely separate Back of Bourke, the television show, from the actual town of Bourke. This is for many reasons, the most obvious being that the town's name is literally in the title of the show.
Yeah, Bourke, like the real Bourke, is a small town in New South Wales. The phrase Back of Bourke apparently emerged in the late 19th century to describe anywhere considered to be in the deep outback, far from civilization, which tells you how truly remote the town is.
Our research into this area of country led us down some truly strange avenues. We have reason to believe that Bourke, or more accurately, Back of Bourke, may have some unexpected similarities to the Back of Bourke that is in the fabled television show. But more on that next week.
And if that's not intriguing enough, Alice recently called Clara, the webmaster from the original Back of Bourke web ring that left us the voice note earlier in the episode, and she let this information drop.
Okay, yeah, I'm recording. So, the current webmaster of the geo-cities archive doesn't post an email address or other contact information. Do you know how we could reach them? He pointedly says on his note on the web ring that he won't leave his email address.
Oh, yes. I've got all his details. He's a lovely man.
Oh, great. But why do you think he doesn't want to be contacted?
I don't need to think. I know.
Why, yeah?
Well, it's a funny thing, a terrible thing, really.
Oh.
He's got so many threatening emails.
What?
There's something about Back of Bourke that brings that out. The mystery. Sometimes I think someone's trying to cover it up, you know. It brings something crazy in people. He gets threats, obtuse comments that are seemingly incoherent, things like that.
But your email address is still up there. Don't you get that stuff?
I did. I mean, I still do. I don't go on that old Hotmail address every day, but when I do, it's 97% threats, 2% strange comments, and 1%, I don't know, creepy poetry or something. It keeps me up at night.
So why do you still check it?
Because I need to know. I need to know more about Back of Bourke.
Will you send me some of these emails?
Yeah, sure will. But I suspect you'll be getting some of your own soon enough.
If you have any information about Back of Bourke, please get in touch with us. The link to the podcast website is in the show notes, and you can email us at bob@3pwidget.com.
A note that these episodes were recorded and researched on the stolen and unceded lands of the Kaurna people. The names of some of the locations discussed are colonial, and we understand and apologise for the atrocities that were committed during all the times from which we quote.